I swear, like, I have more of an emotional connection with, like, these model kits than I do with most of my partners. Hey guys, it's model making time, and today we're looking at the second in the Frecce Tricolori series, which is the FIAT G91, which for some reason I always seem to mentally have down as the GR91. Don't really know why. For those of you who may not be aware, this is from the Frecce Tricolori anniversary set box by Decals, which features an Academy F86, which we've already done. You can click over there if you want to watch that. Then it's the FIAT G91, which is a Revel kit. Finally, there will be an MB339, but that's going to be the hardest for several reasons. If you know the Frecce Tricolori, you already know why. The G91 is the second aircraft of the Frecce Tricolori, and there's nothing really untoward that I can find about it. It was involved in a few incidents, and I can see that there are a couple of fatalities as a result of it. It doesn't look like it's outside of what was reasonable in that time. It sounds really horrible, but it sort of looks like it fits the norm for display aircraft at that time, unfortunately. Overall though, the aircraft had a really successful life, only being retired in 1995. Considering its introduction was in 1958, that's really impressive. The aircraft was originally meant to be sort of a European fighter. It was going to be used across NATO. That never really happened, and it only served with the armed forces of Italy, Germany, and its last standing operator, Portugal. The aircraft had a really successful life. Following its first flight in 1956, it entered service in 1958. It would go on to serve with the armed forces of Italy, Germany, and Portugal, being retired with Portugal in 1993 and Italy in 1995. The Frecce Tricolori had great success with this aircraft. It replaced the F-86 Sabre in 1964 and only left the Frecce Tricolori in 1981. Bearing in mind as well that this aircraft was not really designed to be, an aerobatic team aircraft. This was designed to be a fighter aircraft. It wasn't uncommon for air display teams of this era to have frontline fighters. I mean, look at the Frecce Défense series that we used, and up until the Fouga Magister, the 3 previous aircraft had all been frontline jet fighters. The same then would be true at the Frecce Tricolori, having the F-86, the FIAT G91, and only coming into sort of a trainer capacity with the MB339. The aircraft that the Frecce Tricolori use are all adapted to carry smoke generators. This allows them to paint the sky with the colours of the Italian flag, something that the Frecce Tricolori have become relatively well known for. It also works for their namesake, which is the Frecce, which is arrow, and Tricolori, which is 3 colours. The 3 coloured arrows, representing the 3 colours of the Italian flag. You can see this emblem on the side of the aircraft anyway, but it really comes into fruition when the aircraft are flying. The aircraft is probably most famously known as the mount of the Frecce Tricolori. There have been a few sets of this, including a main kit, which I do have but I've not yet built, and an airfix boxing, which I built as a child. It was the airfix boxing that really made me get into model kit making as a child. With the vibrant colours and the tricolori on the bottom, it was just, I don't know, it was fantastic to me. I built my aircraft completely wrong back then. I was a really novice builder, and it was one of the first ones I built without any adult supervision. It was black on top rather than the blue that it's meant to be, and it just looked like a mess on the bottom. I remember it really well. So here's hoping that in this instance I can do a lot better than I did as a child. Let's start off by having a look at what's inside the box. Boom! It's the box set that we had before, and I literally have to move my camera up to fit this box in. Okay, so as for the last one, we're only going to be looking at what we're actually going to be using today. Sorry about the lighting. I need to get some more lights, but that's not something we can really afford to do right now. But hopefully at some point we'll get a light for on here as well. We'll do it in a bit of a reverse order just because that's in a bag and I just want to look at these first. But again, the decals look really, really nice. Really, really pigmented. Decals always do genuinely fantastic decals. Although this isn't their own kit, this is the Revel kit from what I understand, but it's honestly gorgeous. These decals look stunning, so well done. The plastic clear parts are not separated, so my canopy is all apart, so I'm going to put that in my little spares box to make sure I don't lose any of it. Cool, so clear parts are all safe and away. We can have a look at this, which is going to be the actual, bulk of the kit. Don't look massively super detailed. You can tell again this is an older kit. Feeling of the kit's absolutely fine. Plastic again feels like okay quality. I mean, again, this looks like a relatively simple kit. Cockpit, we do have one. It doesn't look stupendously complicated. Looks relatively simple actually. We will have a quick look at the instructions, just because it's a limited edition kit. I just want to see what they're like, but I mean, I'm generally quite a big fan of Itali's instructions. They really tend to be pretty good, and I mean, again, this is really clear, concise. It tells you what you need to do without overcomplicating it. So again, this looks pretty nice, to be honest. Overall, I think this looks alright. It should be quite a nice build, to be honest. Like, it'll be nicer than the F86 because that was very simple, but I didn't love building the cockpit. Great, so the kit actually looks pretty reasonable, right? I'm kind of excited to get into the bulk of the building, so let's get straight into it. So here we are building the G91, and it's a pretty straightforward construction. It's, you know, the wings in 2 parts, the fuselage in 2 parts, cockpit, and boom, you're pretty much done. So whilst I do the wings and put the cockpit in place, I thought I'd just let you know that I no longer stream on Twitch. I made the decision to move over to YouTube because most of y'all are here anyway, and it just made sense. I may end up restreaming to Twitch at some point in the future, but right now I think I'm quite happy just being over here. So you'll see event notifications come up in your video feed when I set them, generally a couple of days before the stream. Right, let's get back to this then. So I'm putting the cockpit together, and one of the things I did remember with this, and we'll go into it in a second, is that, you know, I actually need to put weight in this one. You may have picked up on the F86 that, you know, the weight distribution was not very good, and actually that was a tail sitter, and is that much up behind me as a tail sitter. What I need to do at some point is fix it, but that's probably not going to happen, so I ended up just leaving this. So I ended up just deciding to make sure that the G91 was absolutely perfect. The cockpit I use in reference photos online to try and get as accurate as possible, but to be honest, at this scale it's more about inferring the right thing more than anything else. Now you can see the be like that. I'm putting in place some paper clips to make sure I get some weight in there. I don't have any lead or anything at the moment, so that's the only thing I really have to use. I've even got a Humbrol paint now because, you know, for once I'm actually using a colour that I don't have in Revell Aqua Colour, and that was for the inside of the cockpit. Once we put the fuselage together, it's a pretty straightforward job from here on out. The actual detail of this kit is pretty much already in place. Again, this is a really, really simple aircraft. Would I recommend it for an absolute beginner? Probably not, but would I recommend this to someone as like their 3rd or 4th model? Yeah, it's pretty easy. I mean, you really probably could do this as a beginner as well. The detailing isn't absolutely amazing, but again, it is an older kit, so we can sort of forgive that, right? I think we can. Now, on the stream, I actually, as I said, was in quite a rush because I cut the decals out for the underside tricolor, or tricolori, should I say, and for the G91 when I was doing the F86, so I decided, I'll just build the G91, get it all done, and then I can put them on there. So I actually undercoated it in white and then started putting on the blue as well that I'm using, which is from Revell Aqua Colour again. Now I'm using the same blue as I did with the F86, so we're going to go over with a couple of layers, make sure that it's really nice and consistent, and then once that's done, all we've got to do is put the Tricolori in place underneath, which again is a nice decal, which from what I can see is pretty much an emerald green and a fiery red with the white in the middle, but not having to paint the white is a bloody godsend because that always takes me such a long time to get a really nice, consistent, opaque white without too many brush strokes, as you saw in the Frecce de France series that I did. So yeah, absolute godsend for the Frecce Tricolori series. We're pretty much at the end there now. I am painting on, just on the cockpit, there will be a black point ahead of it, which is an anti-glare point, I guess. Well, it's probably not called a point, but you know what I mean. Once I got the white done, I put the tricolor on top, and that's pretty much it. It's almost done. Obviously, I've got all the decals to do on the top side, but for the most part, hey, that's a successful build. It was in this footage just because I forgot to record anything before I went on to day 2. So I guess we're moving on to day 2 of the G91. This will be mainly just decaling the actual model, given that we've already painted it. I've already decaled the bottom half, and yeah, we're gonna go on to day 2. Okay, and here we are with the decals. So not a massive amount to do. There aren't I don't know, I guess like with display aircraft, you don't have as many of the sort of smaller decals to do, and I'm sure they probably have as many markings on in real life, but I guess at this scale, as soon as you start adding them on, it could potentially muddy them up. But I mean, on the Double Dutch display team one, I had a lot of the details to do, and that one looked bloody good in the end, so I don't know, maybe they just didn't have them. Either way, the decals we put on all looked absolutely perfect and vibrant. They looked absolutely stunning in place on the model. I had a lot less cracking as well, which I was quite surprised by. I expected to have a lot more cracking on the underneath side in particular, because I did on the F86, but in this instance I didn't. I asked chat what number we should have the aircraft as. I didn't really know how to choose otherwise, so I just said, hey chat, choose me a number. And well, you're about to see what we ended up going with. Everything was fixed on with water and then covered in a layer of decal fix afterwards to help it, you know, really suction onto the model in the way that, you know, decals do when they're really well placed and soaked. I don't know what the compress of the model, I don't know, however you call it, but they look absolutely gorgeous when they're done. And there you go, lucky number 7 is the number that we went with. So that's pretty much it for the top decals. Day 3 of this guy, and it's so close to being finished. It looks sick at this point. I'm really happy with it. A few bits decal wise where I could have done better, I'll be really honest with you. Particularly on the bottom here, didn't quite match up the colour properly. There's a hair on it that just got trapped, but you know what? It doesn't look half bad. I actually think it looks really nice, at least from the top. I'm gonna have to paint over this decal on the front here. It did not go flat. But we'll, we basically at this point just need to do the landing gear, and then this little guy is done. Final stage of assembly here then. So this is pretty much just the undercarriage, because I always leave this till absolute last. There are a couple of decals that go on them, because again, Italeri make it super easy for you to put the tricolor on by having the separate decals for the undercarriage, which I think is absolutely stunning. It makes it so much easier for any aircraft in general, I guess, not even just display aircraft, but I mean, that was all I had to do for the rest of the kit. Now, other than the underwing tanks, which I completely forgot to do, and I didn't even remember to film it when I did them, so they're going to be like on the final one as well. Wow, we finished the model. Yeah, I don't know why I'm fanning myself, it's freezing cold, I'm wearing this really thick jumper which I can never put on without getting makeup on, and also it's snowing outside, so yeah, let's just have a look at the model, shall we? So the model went relatively okay. I had some issues with the drop tanks, mainly that I ran out of time to make the model. I've got a lot to do today, and unfortunately I just sort of popped them on and didn't chop off the little guiding pins because I don't know where the holes were in the first place. So yeah, it doesn't look the best, but I mean, it looks okay. It looks far better than what I would have created before, and honestly, before the drop tanks were added, I think it looked pretty damn cute. I'm really excited to see how the MB339 looks. All throughout December, we're going to be doing Christmassy things. I mean, the first one probably isn't, but the rest of them are. So the MB339 is going to be out in a couple of weeks' time, so make sure you hit the subscribe button so that you get notified when I do upload the MB339. Honestly, I got this when I went on a school trip to Venice when I was in like year 8, so that's a hell of a long time ago now, and I found it the other day and I was like, well, that'll do. Yes, if you find yourself in a position to acquire the G91, then I recommend you go for it. It's a really nice kit, and the Avix one is nowhere near as good. The Revell kit is significantly better, having, you know, an actual cockpit rather than just a seat, and it's clearly a more recent mould. It does produce a better model overall, and the main kit just furthers on from that from what I understand, so maybe I'll look at the main kit next. I've heard amazing things about that. It's pretty much the only really accessible G91 that's on the market these days, given that the Revell kit has been out of production for quite some time and can go for really absurd prices, particularly with the Portuguese Tiger one, and the Avix one, although still relatively available, tends to retail for between sort of £10 to £15, and the main kit can be acquired for between £15 to £25, so the main kit seems like a more sensible purchase. But if you get the Avix one on the real cheap, then yeah, it's probably worth going for. So now that I've done this about 35,000 times, let's get into looking at the actual model itself. Thanks for watching the video. I really appreciate it. Hit the subscribe button and notification bell to be notified of every new video on Mondays. You'll also be able to see me stream live on YouTube. Thanks again, I really appreciate it. Have fun modelling!